We're doing a series of lessons. This is our last week, our 7th week, called Characteristics of the Uncommon Life. Just passing in review briefly, the word uncommon means to be unusual, abnormal, rare, atypical, unconventional, unfamiliar, strange. You might be that category. Odd, curious, extraordinary, outlandish, novel, singular, peculiar, or bizarre. And if you add the word audacious to that, man, well, you got some crazy face center people around here that love God. So the first week we talked about the value of honor. Uncommon people know how to honor other people. Number 2, you reap what you sow. In life, you just realize that uncommon people realize that they got to treat people well because you're going to reap what you sow. Number 3, you live a life of gratitude in spite of the circumstances. I love that song, It Is Well With My Soul. Man, the team just hit it out of the ballpark today. I could sing that song over and over and over again because there's times when all hell is breaking loose and I just have to lift up the Lord and just say, it is well with my soul, because it's not well anywhere else. We have to live a life of gratitude. Number 4 is we want to live a lifetime of growth and how we keep growing in the things of God and our education and different things. And then Joel taught on the law of the first, which was a powerful message. Last week we talked about the power of 2. Was it last week or was that Father's? I don't know. Things run together. Anyway, last time we were together, we talked about the power of 2. Today, the last week, I want to talk to you about the law of the individual, or the law, the recognition of differences that we all have. Science has estimated that, think about this, the God that we serve. There's 7 billion people on the face of the earth, and not one fingerprint is the same out of those 7 billion people. I mean, think about it. Just think about the magnitude of that. We serve a God that 7 billion people on the earth, and not one person has the same fingerprints. You know, it doesn't snow here that often, but for whatever reason, we seem to have got our share of it this last year. They say that the chances of one snowflake resembling another snowflake, so thousands and millions and zillions and trillions of them come down all over the world. And they say that a snowflake to match another snowflake and be just almost exactly alike, they said the possibility of that happening are 1 million trillion to 1. So you put a 1 and 18 zeros, I'm not sure we even, we didn't know what $1 trillion was a few years ago, but the national debt rised up there to $1 trillion. So I'm sure we'll hit this in America eventually. We'll understand this number eventually. But right now, it's 1 million trillion to 1 that a snowflake is the same. See, your difference and what makes you different decides your importance in life. Your difference decides your importance. Your ability to stand out because of your uniqueness will be the difference in your life. It's amazing to me, all of our business owners who I get a chance to hang out with every once in a while and talk about and talk to. One of the common themes of all of our business owners, maybe not all of them, but almost everyone I've talked to, says that really some of them even thought about shutting down their businesses because it's hard to find somebody that'll just show up for work and spend 8 hours there. And so in today's world, if you want to climb to the top of the ladder, you can be unique by just actually showing up and working. You can actually get promoted probably in your position by actually just showing up and working and act like you want to be there when you probably don't. So it just doesn't take much in today's world to be different probably than other people. But our uniqueness, and someone said this, it says, your similarity to other people creates your comfort, but your difference creates your rewards. Your similarity creates your comfort, but your differences create your rewards. Psalm 139 and verse 14, he says, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. I was thinking about all the intricacies of life and the different things, and how God, the evolutionary theory is just such a funny theory when you think about it, that we just, happen to have eyes that can focus, and all the things about the human body that are just amazing, and God created the human body in just such an amazing way that we got this crazy bodies that we have we got these hearts that will beat for 70 years in a row for, 70, 80, 90 years will beat every day of our lives. God is just such an amazing God. And and he makes us all with different fingerprints, and he makes us all. And if there's anybody that it's kind of funny because Theresa and I'll and this probably happens maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. We'll say this to one another. We'll say, "Yeah, man, that looks just like so and so." You ever say that? You read somebody in the wall or something, you go, "Man, that looks just like so and so." And the reason why you're saying it is such amazing is because it's so rare for 2 people to look alike. And we're just such individual people, and God just made us amazing. Joel, when he was playing baseball, we had some twins that he grew up playing all-stars baseball with and everything, and I could not tell them apart to save my life. I'd always just find out what color baseball shoes they had on, so then I'd say, okay, red is Kyle, and okay, red is Kyle, red is Kyle, red is Kyle. So, hey, Kyle, and none of us could tell them apart. But the dad, Jerry, could sit there, and he could be up in the stands, and both of his boys clear out in the thing, and he's, well, that's Kyle, and so on and so forth. That's Brandon, that's Kyle. And he could tell them apart from a distance away. And they are just as identical twins as you can get, yet the father can tell the difference between the two. And it's amazing to me that we spend a lot of our lives, and think about what I'm about ready to say here, that we spend a lot of our lives, and God made us so unique and so amazing and so individual, but we spend most of our lives trying to copy somebody else. Our fashion and different things that we wear is all about, I saw so-and-so, and I saw so-and-so. I had a cousin that he was 4 years older than me, and I just copied him. I just wanted to copy him just exactly like he was. Never forget when he bought first pair of Levi's, and so I bought a pair of Levi's. And they were expensive back then, like $8, or something like that. And I bought a pair of Levi's, and he cut his hair a certain way, and I cut my hair a certain way. And he played basketball, so I played basketball. And I just wanted to be just like him. I just thought he was the most amazing guy, And then, man, he was the guy, the drinking, partying guy in his high school. I remember going to a football game, and I was, like I say, he's 4 years older than me. I went to a football game, and here he is, and everybody's laughing at him because he's making a fool of himself, and he's just drunk as can be at the football game. And I thought to myself, I want to be just like him. And I did. I just became just like him. And I spent my life trying to be somebody that I wasn't, trying to imitate somebody. And there's nothing wrong with imitating somebody, trying to be like them in their good parts. But watch out, because you'll grab their bad parts also. Seems like we spend our lives trying to compare ourselves with somebody else. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, the Apostle Paul said it this way. He says, "For we do not class ourselves or compare ourselves with those who commend themselves, but they, measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise." They're not wise. "For we, however, do not boast beyond measure, but with the limits of the sphere which God has appointed us, the sphere which can't even say it this morning. Sphere, whatever, that the round thing, whatever, which especially includes you, or the scope of influence, if you will. It especially includes you. And so in our lives, we've got this competition thing that always happens to us. And we were doing our little meeting, and Heather brought up that in Pinterest, and I got a Pinterest account that I look at, once every 3 months, whether I need to or not. I know. I always leave it to my wife, They got some cool stuff on Pinterest, I got to admit. Harley stuff and backpacks and all kinds of stuff. But it seems like a lot of you young people, maybe it's not just young people, but Heather put it this way, says, we all have to be Pinterest perfect now. The Pinterest wedding that costs $100,000 and you're on a $5,000 budget for the Pinterest wedding that we have to do because Pinterest put it out there as a standard. I thought we'd show you some things. These are called Pinterest fails this morning when we try to imitate something. So let's just show a couple of these Pinterest fails today. I'm not it. Are we working on it in there? Here we go. Tell me if I'm moving on or if we're not moving on. We have a fail. Does that mean move on? Are we up for the other ones now? So, okay, whatever. Ruined my whole message. That's all right. Just Pinterest fails. They were so funny. I mean, people trying to make these little cupcakes, and they're on Pinterest. They're absolutely perfect. And when somebody else tried to make them, they were just disastrous. People trying to copy this, copy a wedding off of Pinterest, a camouflage wedding off of Pinterest, and then when the real wedding, you go, oh, that was really bad. Because it just doesn't match all the time. It just doesn't match in everything that we do here. So there's something about we try to be perfect in everything that we do, and we try to imitate all the things that we do. And I think God wants us to come back to, there's nothing wrong with imitation to a certain degree, but I think we have to come back to and realize that you are unique in who you are. And God has gifted you uniquely to yourself and who you are. And God has amazing plans for you and your purpose in life. Let's talk about some thoughts about our differences. I got 4 thoughts about our differences this morning. Number 1 is your difference solves somebody's problem. Your difference solves someone else's problem. There's something about the difference between two people. It's like, I used to feel bad about this, and I hate details. I mean, I love to get details done. I mean, I want details done. I want everything I love everything in order. I want, labels on everything, and, if you go in my closet, my closet has to be, all the hangers have to match. I can't go, my wife's closet is like, there's plastic hangers and wood hangers and all this kind of stuff. And you go in there and you go, whoa, how does she get this much stuff in her closet? And then you go in my closet and it's not as clean as it probably should be, but every hanger at least matches. And I don't know why, but I just like details. I mean, I like it. I don't like doing them. I'd rather have somebody else do them for me. But I want details, because what I learned from that, though, is my giftings are not in the details. My giftings are in other things, in visions and dreams and different things. And so there's a lot of stuff around my house that gets left undone, especially the outside, not the inside, because Theresa does most of that. But the outside, there's a lot of stuff left undone because I hate it. I hate it, I carry around my house, I think I've been there for 15 years, and I think I've pulled 3 weeds in 15 years. Because I carry a 4-gallon sprayer full of Roundup. And I just pump that thing up, and if it's green, it gets sprayed. I spray it everywhere. Because I am not pulling weeds. It is against my religion to pull weeds. It's in 4th John. 4th John says, don't pull weeds. But I just don't like that. But it's amazing to me what I found at church, that the things that I can't even imagine I can't even imagine sitting in an office and working on some of the handouts that people do and the financial stuff and all that kind of stuff. I know about all that stuff, but it just could drive me crazy. So I used to think that everybody hated that. And the reality is, something you hate to do is probably because you're not called to do that, but somebody else is called to do that very thing, and they will actually enjoy what you hate. That's just revelation to me, that somebody actually enjoys something like doing a handout for church. It's like, that just amazes me that somebody would like that. That would be, if I ever went to hell, they'd make me do handouts. Or make me balance a checkbook or something like that. And so you have to find how God's gifted you and the individual how God's gifted you. Number 2, we have to use the gifts that God's given us. Look at Romans chapter 12. He says this in verse 4. He says, for as many as have many members in one body, but all members do not have the same function. Thank God. So we are being many are one body in Christ and individual members of one another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. Let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. Or ministry, let us use it in our ministering. He who teaches in teaching. He who exhorts in exhortation. He who gives with liberality. He who leads with diligence. He who sows mercy with cheerfulness. I don't think the Lord in the day of judgment is going to get up there. I don't think it's going to be a big, negative thing for Christians. But I wonder with some of the things that we have in our lives is we miss out on so much of life because God's gifted us in areas and we just decided to put those gifts on the shelf for God. I wonder how many musical instruments there are out here that would play in the worship team, but it takes a commitment to come on Thursday nights. And I wonder how many times we just let that slip because, for whatever reason, we've decided that, it's just too much work. I wonder how much stuff is, things get undone in our lives and fulfillment that we would have if we would just take time to be who God called us to be and do that very thing that God called us to be. And you might say, I'm gifted in this area. Can I be used in that homeless shelter? Could I be used at the church? Could I be used at that school? Could I do something for that? Because you wonder how many people really fulfill the heart and the destiny of God because they just decide to put their gift on the shelf. They just decide, well, I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I'm too this, or I'm not this good, or I'm not that good, or whatever it might be. And we put our giftings on the shelf. Someone told me one time, this helped me write my book. I wrote a book. And I just said, you know what? I don't care if nobody reads the book. I don't care if not one person reads it. I know I have to get this book out. Because he said to me, graveyards are full of unwritten books. Of, well, I should have, and I should. Now, I'm going to ask, now, honestly, I want some honest opinions here. Honest. Please, I'm going to raise your hand. Get ready to raise your hand. You ready? Get ready. Get your right hand ready to go. Get it ready. And wait till I get done completely what I'm about ready to say, and then lift your hand. How many of you have thought about written a book but have not? Raise your hand. No, come on, no half-hearted, not this stuff. Get it way up in the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Let's say there's 30 on that side. That's 60 books that are unwritten in this. There's 60 books that are unwritten. $60 books that are unwritten in this place today. And I can say, how many of you have thought about it, picking up on this or doing that or so on and so forth? And the Lord says to us, He says, let us use them. Let us use them. If He's given you in proportion to your faith, He says, let us use them. I think sometimes you might be, I wonder if some of these people sat down to write a novel and they became the great novelists of our kind. I wonder if that's sitting in this room today, or somebody's got an idea for a business, or somebody's got an idea for an invention, or somebody's got an idea for something in their lives that they've just sat on. Boy, it took me a long time to get it done. Because I'm not that great of, I don't type and different things like that, so I just got it done a different way. And I think we have to get back to the place where God has uniquely qualified you and uniquely made you an individual where God has a purpose and a destiny for your life. And maybe you're robbing not only yourself, but maybe you're robbing me and the rest of the congregation by not writing that book or doing what God called you to do. Number 3, when it comes to your individual, find something that you either enjoy or that makes you mad. Find something you enjoy or something that makes you mad. What do you have passion about? What is there something that just either makes you mad or just you enjoy? There's something that you enjoy. What is it in that? I think that we get all caught up with God somehow calling us to something that we don't enjoy. Like, if I obey God, He's going to send me to a place where I really don't want to go and I don't enjoy it. I'm not sure that's the God we serve. I think, we have a hard enough time doing what we do enjoy. So what stirs you? What makes you mad? What do you see? You walk in and there's something wrong with the building or something. It's like, man, I've been looking at that thing for 2 years. Well, maybe you're the only one who sees it. Maybe that's you that needs to do it. Are you getting what I'm saying today? I'm trying to find out, trying to show you the uniqueness of each person in this room. How God has something for you. And really, I think people's lives depend upon it. I'm hoping we're ready to go with these ones. Are we ready to go with this one? Okay. Look at these guys. We'll start off with this one. I'll mention these guys. If you don't know these guys, I want to. If you don't know what they do, you'll catch it at the end. This is Anthony Mosley. He's worth $10 million. Okay, next guy is Lance Mountain, never heard of him, worth $10 million. Next. Eric Costin, worth $15 million. Next. Tony Alva, he's worth $15 million. Next. Rob Derrick, whatever his name, worth Derrick, worth $15 million. Next. Chad Muska, worth $16 million. Next. Ryan Scheckler, whatever his name is, $16 million. Rodney Mullen, $30 million. $30 million, worth $30 million. Next. And you stop me if I go too far, so don't stop me at the end. Whatever this guy's name is, he's worth $100. He's worth $100. I think it's $100 million, whatever. Thank God he's worth $100. Kind of blew my story there. We forgot a few zeros there on our media department. Next. Is that it? Okay. Now, you say, what do these guys do? What do they do? Well, they all have one thing in common. They all do the same thing, and they've made millions of dollars doing it. Let's see what they do. They're skateboarders. And that's the old Tony Hawk, right? And how much is Tony Hawk worth? $120 million. For riding a stinking skateboard. Do you get my point? These guys took something that they had fun at. I mean, I didn't even know the rest of the guys. I know Tony Hawk. I didn't know the rest of the guys. But they found something that they had fun at, and they just did it with a passion, and look where they're at today. How many other things are like that? Please, if you're over 70, don't start riding skateboards. But how many of us are sitting on something individual in our lives, that have something in our lives that God has called us to, that may be our reward in life, and not just money. You understand. I'm just use that as a figure thing, but money could be part of it. It's probably part of it. But how many of us will fulfill our destiny? Uncommon people understand the law of doing things that God's called them to do. The last one is God has a place for you. There's a lot of times Abraham had to get out from his pagan parents. You know, in Isaac, listen to this, in Isaac in Genesis chapter 26, verse 1, it says, there was famine in the land. Besides this first famine, there was in the days of Abraham and Isaac, went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. And the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I'll be with you, and I'll bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your fathers. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of the heavens. And I'll give to your descendants in all these lands, and all your seed, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So his circumstances were, Isaac's in this land, there's famine, things are going bad, everything's falling apart, the circumstances of life, we're telling him to get out of there, go somewhere else, and God says, no, you stay in the place that God called you to. You stay there. You stick out that marriage. You stick out some of those things. You stay where God planted you, and you don't, so many times, man, the enemy wants to unpluck us from where God planted you. And then let's find out what happened in the 12th verse. It says, then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man began to prosper and continued to prosper until he became very prosperous, and he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and great numbers of servants. So the Philistines envied him. Circumstances of life will try to get you out of your destiny. Well, I'm too old. No, you stick to what God called you to do. Well, I'm too young. I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too this, I don't have enough, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I believe God's saying to you, look, I put in your hand. I don't think God's going to get mad at us and, yeah, I told you to do that. And, the day of judgment, I told you had 8 books in you and you did a rotten thing. I think he's just saying, look, I'm giving you some amazing potential. I'm giving you some amazing stuff here. And you sell yourself short. And we have a real God who created the universe, who lives inside of us. And I think we need to go big for God if we're ever going to go. We need to go big for God like we never have.